And good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, I guess. So quite a wild day we had today. It's on here August 15th in the stock market. So I really started actually publishing these videos for everyone, just kind of some chart analysis yesterday, and I looked at 5 stocks yesterday: IQ, Weibo, WB, and HUYA, 3 Chinese tech stocks. I also took a look at TNDM and Boeing, BA. So I will actually today am going to do a nice little kind of recap of what we actually saw yesterday. I made kind of some predictions, was pretty close to being spot on all 5 of them. So it was an impressive day for me, even though some of my long-term sentiments were off. My short-term trades actually made me a good amount of money today as the market went against my overall long-term positions. So let's kind of take a look at what happened and really what that means next for each stock. So we actually are going to start with IQ in this. So if you guys have watched my video from yesterday, if you haven't, check it out so you can kind of see the before and after of what happened. I made a mention on the stock yesterday that we were still trending down. And so at least short term, it is bearish from the trend. I like the stock long term. And if you're getting in at these low prices to hold for several years, it's never a bad place. But in the near term, for definitely swing traders, day traders, it is something that's very bearish to watch. I made the call yesterday that the stock, you would see more, the stock to continue to trend down today. My prediction was that it would go down and hit 25 on increased volume from yesterday. So you will see here we do have a little more volume than yesterday. I expected a little higher volume than what we got, but I expected probably something around 25 million, but still a little more volume than yesterday. Almost all of that came in the morning as the stock opened right down here at 25. So at the open, I was already kind of correct in that position, and I actually sold within the first 10 minutes of the day half of my puts, my 25 puts, and took a good profit there. So what we were trying to look is in that, and I made the call yesterday that I do think the stock is still heading down into the 23 area, and that's where I think it's going. But I did mention that you're probably going to see a lot of price action around 25. And that's exactly what we saw today. It actually immediately broke 25 in the morning and then popped straight back up above it and held and didn't, above 25 the rest of the day, closing all the way up at 26.13. So a very strong move off the 25 support line. So while I do still think 23 is where the stock is heading, probably in the next week or so, probably by 27th, I would imagine you'll see the stock down here. This is a very, at least in the short term, bearish move for the stock. So we're seeing it here on this middle trend line, down trend line right off that, right at the 25 support, getting a bounce. I would expect it to open up tomorrow higher and continue its move. And we're going to see it most likely hit, 28 to upper 28s off this upper trend line. That, of course, will be our next place to watch. So for those that are looking for a chance to either be bullish, you'll get a little pop over the next couple of days. But for those of you looking to get into the trade long term, this may not be the best position to get in, because while we will see a pop up $1 or $2, we have a whole bunch of resistance up here, a trend line that we haven't broken in months, and most likely we're going to bounce off and continue the process down. So, you'd be looking, like I said, to watch and see how the price action works, either next time it gets to 25 for maybe a double bottom, or all the way down to 23. But in the meantime, for those that are day trading, swing trading, look for a move over the next couple of days back up to the upper part of this downtrend channel. So it's a good call yesterday off 25, but we did see a lot of price action off that and a lot of bounce, which gives me at least a short-term bullish sentiment to bounce up and at least retest this trend line. So that was what we saw with IQ. Wevo, WB, a little more bearish than we were with IQ, but nonetheless, on the call was that it would get down to 72, and of course I had some 72 calls, actually just weekly calls that I bought yesterday, right after I made the video, because I felt strongly that it was going to continue this move down. Of course, it gapped down this morning, and I sold them as it broke 71 right off the bat early this morning. And so you'll see on my trend line here that it came down and bounced there right just above 70, and cleared the trend line. And then we got some pullback up all the way back over my 72.24 support line. So again, pretty bullish move off of that fall. So I would be expecting the same thing we saw with IQ. I would expect to see a little ramp up here. We're a little, you may even get this testing back up into the 80s, or you may more likely kind of see something like we saw before with a little kind of consolidation move up. So something that takes over the next couple of weeks and brings us into, the upper 70s into the trend line before continuing down. So I would look for, short term, a little bit of a bullish move, and for it to kind of continue its move up. I would really like to see that if it can open up higher tomorrow, at least above 73, 74-ish, to get definitely a run. We could definitely see kind of a big bounce, up in the 80s and get all the way back up here. That would be the best case scenario. But then again, you may not see that. You may see some consolidation. So really, you'd be looking at what happens around 75, right? If the stock opens higher and it can't really break through 75, or it doesn't have a lot of volume, and it kind of just hangs around 73, 74, then you'd probably be looking at something that is going to trade sideways, maybe up a little bit over the next couple of days. So not a great kind of move for option traders, because though the stock might be going up, time in that case would be against you. So keep an eye on that. But either way, both stocks to me look like we're going to see a bounce in Chinese tech tomorrow. And that finally brings us in to HUYA in this. So this prediction from me from yesterday was that it would move down, but I actually expected a little bit of consolidation. At the time of doing my video, the stock was hanging out right around this 28.43 pivot yesterday. It had been consolidating there most of the day before, but it did finish the day with an end of day sell-off as a very bearish sentiment to me. That came after I made the video. I was looking for a little bit of consolidation here over the next day or two, and then for it to come off the downtrend line and continue its lower movement next week down into 24.50. But of course, with the market being the way it was today, the stock wasted no time in continuing the downtrend. It gapped down lower today and continued right down to 24.50, right into this pivot area. And just like the other stocks we saw, it opened really below this pivot and immediately got back above it, and actually kind of moved up on the day from where it opened. So giving us a little bit of a bearish signal. So, I mean, the stock is down quite a bit over the last 3 days from these earnings, 25% from that close the day before earnings. But again, you did see some support there in that. This is the only stock that actually saw decreased volume today. And again, that's because you're coming off earnings, which is why you have such high volume. But I do like the hold of the 24.50 support and the bounce. So I would actually be looking for kind of the similar move that we're expecting with IQ and WB tomorrow, to see a little bit of some support here and move back up to retest this 28.43 pivot. We have a gap here, and as everyone knows, stocks like to close gaps. So I would assume that's going to bounce up in the morning and close the gap, and then we'll see if it can get all the way up and retest 28.43 either tomorrow or Friday. And then it might break it, or it might consolidate under it until we get to the downtrend line, and then potentially and most likely continue our trend down. in that. So really short term with the other stocks, what we're looking for is a bounce over the next couple of days, couple dollar bounce here, and then we'll see how that reacts when it gets to that downtrend line, and see if we can break it. Maybe looking to break trend as we get through, August, this terrible month for trading, or if it's going to continue its downtrend. So still long term, a very risky place here to get in, but for short term traders, you have an opportunity here maybe to scalp a couple dollars here off the bounce of this pivot. So fantastic. So those are our 3 Chinese stocks. You'll see kind of a similar movement for all of them. Just like in all 3 of my videos yesterday, I made a lot of references between them because you are seeing the whole market move very, very similar. So, whichever stock you kind of prefer, in that you do have opportunities in each one. For there, we'll move to TNDM, a completely different industry. Moving away from there, actually did this one on a referral from a friend to take a look at it. And my main point that we talked about yesterday was that the stock had come down and really put in a double top here. And so the comment was, how is it going to react to that $34 price, right? At that resistance. Will it be able to break that and continue the run higher, or will it bounce off? I saw this morning, one of the first things it did this morning, even though the whole market was down, was immediately get up there and break 34, actually hitting 34.20. But then it had a massive sell-off and really dropped down all the way down here into 32 and actually below 32 a little bit today. So very, very bullish there. However, the end of the day, we saw support come back in off 32 and it really to rally back up. So we're kind of at a spinning top here, which really to me gives me neither a bullish nor a bearish sentiment. And so it's something that I'm watching. I do not have any open options or equity trades here with this stock. However, I am watching it very closely because if it is to break the high tomorrow, if we break 34, or especially 34.20, I would look to load up as we push higher. As I mentioned yesterday, if we pull back out to the week and scroll over, we really have nothing here between 34 and 60. So you have a really, really big opportunity to run up several dollars and continue this pump. So who knows how high we can get there. So it's something to watch for that bullish sentiment if it can break 34. However, that really bearish move this morning put a lot of fear in me for not owning it today. And so we'll see it tomorrow. If it breaks below 32, near then now, not only breaking the 9, but you are, then having that double lower candle, which is completely different than the first notch, which, had multiple red candles, but it came back to the 9. If you're having a second red candle below the 9, you're definitely looking to get down and retest 30, and you might even be looking at a change of trend. So a very, very risky position either way. So short should be scared of a break of 34, and bull should be scared of a break of 32. So in just a few minutes left here in this video about Boeing, I made a comment with Boeing is that we have a head and shoulders pattern here, which is very, very bearish and very scary, and called for a move down to the 200 SMA. And as you can see, we came down and hit the 200 SMA. So as called, we got all the way down there to the 328 mark in that. So the whole movement is still very bearish in Boeing, and I would assume that is going to continue. If you're not in a position now, really that break of the 200 is everything, right? If the stock tomorrow breaks this 200, we could see a decent drop, all the way down into below, potentially below $300. So break at 200 gives you a chance to maybe get in short there, and then if you are long, maybe watch that for a stop out and a chance to get out and then buy back in at cheaper. So the pattern here very bearish on Boeing, and so I'd be watching that to see if we continue to break lower. Of course, on the counter, if it breaks 337, then maybe we can break this pattern and head higher. But I would bet on going lower in the near term. All right, thanks everyone.